Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Sam Collins podcast. Today, I want to talk about ambition, and I want to talk about having a bigger ambition for ourselves and for others than perhaps we might envision for ourselves. And I want to start with a story. I remember being at an Aspire workshop in London once, which I was running. And it was a small group of women, 20, 25 women. And I can't even totally remember what the subject was. It was a leadership workshop. But that's it. We were talking about different leadership styles. And women were becoming more comfortable with their authentic style and thinking about how they communicate with others and usual kind of leadership workshop type stuff a few years ago. Anyway, my main memory of this is there was this amazing woman there. She is a professor and doctor for respiratory medicine for the National Health Service in the UK. And so incredibly bright, brain the size of a planet. She's done incredibly well in her career. And she's not, let's say, what you might stereotypically expect when you would meet someone like that. She doesn't look like that. She doesn't sound like that. She's completely relatable, normal. Just love her. And she's really quite good with the F word, using it quite a lot. So I was like, well, like her, very rebellious. Anyway, we're all talking at the end, doing a little bit of networking at the end, and she's talking to someone else. And she looks over towards me and she looks at me and she points at me and she says, "You should be a professor." First of all, I thought she was talking to someone else, like someone behind me. So I sort of turned around as if to say, "Oh, who's she talking to?" She says, "No, I'm talking to you. You would make the most amazing professor. You should think about it. I can help you. We can follow up afterwards. We can talk about it and we can figure out how you're going to do it." Now, first of all, I was like, "Professor?" I'd never ever thought about being a professor before. I have a doctorate degree, but you know what? I barely got that. My professor, who was my supervisor during my PhD, told me infamously to me, "You're not an academic. It will be a real shock if you actually pass, but we'll do our best." So to actually get a doctorate was a little bit of a surprise, especially as I decided, as is my style, to do it in a more countercultural way. So I used a lot of storytelling in my PhD and future studies and visioning and not the usual perhaps PhD stuff. Maybe it is now, but this was actually 18 years ago. Anyway, so I thought to myself, what? Also, I had have a dad who, when I did my O levels in the UK, you do O levels, it's now GCSEs. I was the last year to do O levels, so you will get to know my age. But when I did my O levels, he said, "Oh, you've done your O levels. Now you do your A levels." No, like, well done, or anything like that. I did my A levels. I was never an A student. I was more like your B's and C's student. So he was a lot disappointed at that. But I did my A levels. He said, "Okay, now you're going to do your degree because you're going to be the first person in the family to do a degree." Not really, I think for me, it was more that he wanted to be able to say, "She's the first person in our family to do a degree. We're in degree family now." Anyway, so I did my degree in business studies in Liverpool, John Moores University, formerly Liverpool Polytechnic. For any Liverpool fans out there, I wanted to get as far away as possible as I could from my little hometown of Farnborough in Hampshire and the council estate that I grew up on. And so I applied to Liverpool secretly. I also applied to Portsmouth, which is like the closest one. And I did that because I had a boyfriend at the time that wanted me to go somewhere close by. And I thought, "Oh, God." I remember going to Portsmouth and thinking, this is just not for me. And going to Liverpool, listening to the Cranberries music on the train up to Liverpool and thinking, "Oh, my life, changing every day." You know that song? Anyway, that's my anthem. They're going to play it at my funeral. And I remember thinking, this is me, Liverpool, woohoo. And oh my God, I had the most amazing. Anyway, I did go to Liverpool. To cut a long story short, I did my degree at Liverpool. Pretty dramatic in the end because my mother passed away in my final year of studying. So that was a very different path for another podcast. Anyway, so I did my degree And then what did my dad say? You've done your degree? No, well, master's. So yeah, I'm doing that anyway. Well, after a certain number of years, I did end up doing a master's in training in human resource management because I thought I was doing this job that I didn't really love, but the part of the job that I loved was working with people. And I was working in restaurants, and I would do the team meetings, and I would train them into the meal of the specials and all of that, and customer service. And that's the part of the job I love, but it was only 20 minutes of my day. So I decided to do a master's in training in human resource development because I wanted to really get good at the small part of my job that I actually loved. So I did my master's, and of course, what did my dad say after that? What about the doctorate? And when I started Aspire in 2001, I thought to myself, I'm pretty young. I was 29. What do I know? People are going to expect me to be an expert in the field. So that's when I started the doctorate. And I'm telling you all of this because, fast forward, I think it was like 2018 or something, when I was you should be a professor. My first thought was, could hear my dad being like, well, you've done your doctorate. Now what about being a professor? And so what I realized did was so many myself, and I know whether you associate with this too, is that we do things because we feel like we should. We do things because there is an expectation from a parent or a manager or a partner or a society or a friend or whatever that we should be doing the things that we're doing. And we end up doing things that we don't particularly love. They might be helpful and useful for our careers and our lives and our financial success and the rest of it, but we don't really love it. So when she said this to me, you should be a professor, I thought, when anyone uses the word should, I normally start to back off slowly. But when I looked at her face, I realized this, and it was really important. She was saying this because in her mind, she could see my potential, and she was offering me a path to something, in her view, better, greater, more impactful, more influential, a use of my skills, something that she would enjoy perhaps me to be, so we could perhaps even be some kind of peers one day. And so this was coming from this wonderful, beautiful, genuine place of being able to see someone else's potential. So that, I believe, is a skill in itself, because don't you find that it's easier sometimes when we look at people and we can see their potential, and we can almost sort of see this future unfolding for them before we can even see our own. So we look at them, we say, oh my God, you could be the most amazing manager, you could be the most amazing chef, you could be the most amazing artist. And they're like, yeah, okay. As maybe in their mind, they have a little glimmer and glimpse of, yeah, that is something that they want. Or maybe in the case when I was told you could be a professor, I'd never considered it. I thought it would be too much work, too academic, beyond me. Now, let me say, I did not pursue the path of professor. I'm not sure I ever would. But my point here is that other people can sometimes see our potential to be more, whatever that looks like, than we can. All right. And I think that when that happens, it's really important to take that on and say, okay, what is possible for me? What are my ambitions? And I don't know that we really spend enough time, energy, and effort in that kind of visioning or dreaming for ourselves. And if we do, we put all sorts of barriers in place, don't we? All the women in leadership stuff, the women as leaders, the women as CEOs, women as board members, women as politicians, women as academics, women as doctors, women as lawyers. When we understand that and say, okay, well, maybe I could do that, but look at all the barriers that are in the way. Oh, I couldn't possibly do that because I'll never have a life. I'll never have a family. I'll never be able to deal with those politics. It will be too much. It'll be too overwhelming. So we put, and I'm not saying those things aren't out there. I'm not completely unrealistic. They are out there. So we put all of those in place. Yeah, okay, nice idea, but no, thank you. So we are constantly shoving things away that are possible. And I believe that this is really one of the biggest problems and issues that we have in the world right now, because there are a lot of people, perhaps some of the people that are running the planet, running organizations, running your company, your institution, your school, who maybe they didn't think like that. They were like, oh, yeah, why not me? I could do that. I'm completely and utterly amazing and competent. And then they apply for that job and they get it, probably because there's not enough competition from those of us that are a lot more humble and a lot more busy. So, is being humble and busy really going to get you to where you want to get to? Is being humble and busy really going to change the world into, or your world, into a world that you want to live in? And you want your friends and your family and your children to really want to live in. We are so distracted with our to do lists, back-to-back meetings, the day job, the housework, the health, the getting through the day, the caring, all of the caring, so much on the caring, the kids, the elderly parents, ourselves. There's so much caring going on. And we understandably put ourselves at the bottom of a very, very long list. And dare we put ourselves on top of the list occasionally? No one else is calling us selfish, but we are calling ourselves selfish. And we feel very guilty about it. Very, very guilty. And, hide, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have a break. I'm so sorry. I'm really unwell. And so therefore, I'm not going to come in. I had to literally convince one of my one-to-one coaching clients this week, which is technically in coaching not what you're meant to do, convince, but I had to ask her the right questions, listen in the right way, and support and challenge her to take some time off because she has terminal cancer, and she's going through a big load of cancer treatment. I had to convince her to take some time off of work so that she can focus on herself, on her health, on getting better. I mean, blow my mind. But this is how we are. We just go on, we go on, and we go on, and we go on, and we go on until we drop. This has to change. The ambition for ourselves must grow and must be bigger. When I say ambition for myself and yourself and ourselves as well, I'm not just talking about being a CEO. A lot of women don't want to be a CEO. For you. And what I'm talking about, ambition for your health, ambition for your day, ambition for your sleep, ambition for your psychology, ambition for your ability to love and be in a loving partnership, ambition for yourself to not get so angry and irritated and annoyed, and not saying don't get angry and irritated and annoyed, because I actually think these are great channeling emotions to make some great changes, but to have those emotions and learn and have the ambition and the skills to channel those into doing great things. I believe that we are all capable in our own individual ways of being absolutely extraordinary. What about that? What does your extraordinary mean? Having an extraordinary level of health. And I'm not talking about making the most money, having the biggest car, having the most social media likes and followers, having the most skinny body and the best clothes. I think that is all the biggest load of bullshit, to be honest. All right. I'm talking about creating a more equitable, just, socially conscious world. It's a big ambition, but we can all have a role in it. We can have a role in creating a socially just, equitable family, a socially just, equitable workplace, to make sure that we have friend groups that are not all exactly the same as us, that we open our minds up to new ideas, to new thinking, to try and understand those that are different to us. These are the small daily actions that, in my mind, are incredibly ambitious. I'm not asking you to quit your job and start a global charity tomorrow. I'm not asking you, those of you who run a global charity, to quit your job and do nothing and just focus on your health for a year. I'm not asking you to do any of those things, although for some that might be true for some of you. It really is about finding your own individualized ambition for yourself at whatever age or stage you are, whether you are 11 years old, 27, 49, 71, or 92. I was wondering last night, I Googled, what's Gloria Steinem doing these days? What's Gloria Steinem doing these days? And you can see the picture, Gloria picture behind me. And okay, Gloria Steinem's 92. 92, and she's still active. And she says that movement creation is not a job. It's lifelong. And I thought, I love that. I still want to be doing what I love and what I do at 92, 102, and hopefully at 103, I'll be like, I'm really pleased with myself. And now I shall go off and come back and be a cat and just relax in the next life. So ambition, what is ambition for you? Can you see it? Can you start to feel it? Can you also see it in others? And when you see it in others, be vocal with them and say, you could do this, you could do that. Not you should, not I'm going to make you, not this is the right thing for your career. I'm not talking about that. But this type of ambition that you can see and the possibility and potential that you can see in other fantastic, extraordinary people around you. So thank you for listening to Dr. Sam Collins' podcast, and think ambition, think freedom, think what it means to you, and start taking your own individual baby steps this week towards that. Until next time, thank you.